Our guest today is Lasha. You know, I taught you about the pronunciation of your first name, but not your last name. Piekart, okay. Piekart. She is the Executive Director of Disability Connections in Jackson, Michigan. You may recognize her from other times she's been here. She'll be speaking on services that Disability Connections provides to help people with employment, I believe. And I will let her do the rest of her introduction. Thank you.
I'm short, but you can hear me, right? Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm very happy to be here, and I love the story. That was an awesome story. I need a copy of that story. That is wonderful, because it so is all about us, I'm telling you. So I brought with me, and I wanted to call your attention, in the aisles that are closest here, there are some pieces of information about different things. So this we think, fantastic little brochure, which gives you a little more information, just a bit of information about the type of service that we provide, and then also a small little handout that we do annually, update annually. We're just about to do the 18-19 statistics, so you'll get a chance to take a look at that. And then also I brought the cool stuff, which is a pen, and these two cards, which give you a little information about one of the programs that we have out there. And just recently, actually, do any of you watch did you see the University of Michigan football game yesterday? Okay, so you saw us on there, myself and a couple of my staff, during one of the little PSAs that they did about University of Michigan and what they do. This project was one of those things. So it was a project that University of Michigan did with us about 4 years ago to create a searchable database for the information that we were gathering as we were going around doing surveys across the 3-county area. Actually, at that time, we were just doing Jackson, to determine the accessibility of different places in the community, restaurants, different small businesses where people could go, and it was many-fold, which brings me into why we did the program. So it is, yes, to help people to know before they go whether or not the place that they're going, the restaurant, the coffee shop, the pizza place, whatever, is accessible and what the features are that are the accessibility features. But what we also wanted to do, which was equally important, was for those places that we visited, and we visited many, many, many places, and had some students from the Spring Arbor University and other volunteers doing those surveys, was that we actually helped people to understand a little better about what accessibility was. So in training all of the students that we sent out, who then trained others, who all went out and did the surveys, and anyone that we helped to understand what those 12 questions were that were necessary for people to actually just be able to get in and do business in those places. Once you learn, you can't unlearn those things. Once you've seen what a wide enough doorway is, 32 inches, you know what a wide enough doorway is. You don't need to, you don't need to learn it again. And you can't stop seeing that. So we really found that was helpful in spreading the word about accessibility. But in addition to that, for people to be able to work in the community, the places that they might be working need to understand disability and, like the story, people's abilities. Because it's all about people's abilities, not disabilities, that are important. People all have gifts, and some people have gifts that show, and some people have gifts that don't. Some people have barriers that show, and some people have barriers that don't. So in going out and doing the surveys in the community, what we were hoping to do was open doors for people in the community who might have disabilities just by having that conversation with places in the community. Because disabilities are, yes, there are some physical things, but there are many, many things that are not physical. These are physical barriers, but there are many things. So we really wanted to open up the eyes of people in the community and public places where people would go about those things. So when you get a chance, it's now an app, which is free on the Apple Store and the Android Store. You can download that. It's free. And you can actually see where places are, what the questions are. It actually gives you the information about all the different things. So please, frequent those places, and if you go, thank those places for being willing to make some of those accommodations that make it possible for people. We also built a lot of great relationships in the community about that, and many of the places that we visited were very surprised that they were as accessible as we thought. We thought they were, they didn't know. So lots of things can be done. So that helps us in the other piece that we like to do, is helping people to become more independent. In order to do that, many people need to work. And to work, you need to have the ability to go places, be in, and so on, but you need the will of the people that are hiring in order to be able to understand what your gifts are and your barriers and what they can do to kind of make those things work for you. So Disability Connections has been around for 94 years. Do you know that? That's a surprise, right? Everybody went, oh, really? Yeah, 94 years. So we've been around for 94 years, and we're actually founded by the Rotary Club of Jackson. As a result of some of the issues that were in the community at the time. Do you remember the polio epidemics and things? Okay. So many of those things resulted in the knowledge that there needed to be something done, and the Rotary Clubs actually went out and did surveys across the state of Michigan, actually, to see what the needs were in the communities, and the needs in our community here were related to children who had different disabilities, mostly resulting from polio, and other things that needed to get rides to some of the clinics that were in Ann Arbor, and they didn't have ways to get there. So that was the beginning, was Rotarians giving rides. And then it kind of grew into a clinic, the Deming Clinic and other things, and we now provide all of these different services that you can see on your sheet here. So I'll go into what's that all about at this point. So we do a number of things that's unique to our area, and one of those things is the loan closet. So have any of you used the loan closet for durable medical equipment? Yeah, I see some nodding heads. So we get donations of different equipment, and if it's something that can be used again, we will fix it if it's necessary, and then loan it back out to people at a small charge in order to be able to cover the cost of doing that. And if people it's a sliding scale, so if people have no ability to pay that, that's okay too. So that is available only in Jackson County, although we serve 3 counties. People can come from other counties and borrow things, but they don't get the sliding discount thing because the donations that support that are from Jackson County. So we really need to honor what we do here in this community for the people in the community here too. We also have an equipment repair volunteer who's a retired engineer from Somerset, who actually comes every Tuesday to repair equipment that isn't in warranty any longer, because we were originally thinking, oh, that'd be a great place to do this little warranty kind of repair service, and maybe make something that we can then use those funds for supporting the work that we do. But we found out that's not really our niche. There are a lot of other warranty providers. Our niche is those people whose equipment is out of warranty and they can't afford to pay for it, the repair, because many things, like a wheelchair, you can only get one every 5 years. What happens if your chair is out of warranty because it's not 5 years? And what do you do about that if you can't afford to get it fixed? So we do that as well. That gentleman does that work, and people pay for the parts that are necessary if there are parts necessary. But because we get all those donations of the different items that people use, we have a great storehouse of all kinds of pieces for all these kinds of equipment that we can use to, defray the cost, so there is no cost for that part. So it's very helpful. There is also, again, a minimal charge because we have to process, we have to clean, we have to, sort, we have to fix things. So there is a little charge for that, but it's very minimal to do that, and then whatever the cost of the work is, or the parts are. We do another thing that's very helpful, I think, in the community for people of all ages, and people misunderstand, thinking we only do this for people who are older. We help people who are in nursing facilities in our 3-county area who are unmedicated and want to move back home, because people get stuck in nursing facilities for all kinds of reasons, but they're not all older people. We've helped people in their 30s get back out of nursing facilities, because if they have an accident or an illness or something that happens that causes them to be unable to work, they often lose their home, their apartment, their furnishings, and all those things, and burn out their families. And after they get finished with burning out all of their funds that they can in the hospital, they move them into some type of a nursing facility, and they're stuck there. So helping people to kind of address those barriers that they need in order to be able to minimally address the needs they have at home, hook them to resources and get them home is part of what we do as well. We do help people with information and referrals for things that relate to disability, helping people who have the need for a ramp but aren't able to afford that in Jackson County. Rotary partners with us, and we last year we built 6 ramps in Jackson County with just the cost of the materials, and Rotary pays part of that, we pay part of that, and the person pays part of that to make it more affordable. We provide respite care for people who have, are caregivers in the community for people who live in their homes, and that can be care for a child, a parent, a spouse, a sibling, doesn't matter who, and that is limited to a small number of hours a month. I'm thinking 16 a month in 4-hour batches. We pay the cost of part of that, the person pays part of that, and then Henry Ford Allegiance Health pays a piece of that as well. So we partner with them they have the caregivers, we just do the scheduling and do the initial assessment. How many of you know Carol Briggs? Oh my gosh, I can't believe it. This is the only place there's one. Okay, I was going to say I've never been anywhere where I've mentioned Carol's name and someone doesn't know her. She knows everybody. But anyway, she is the person who does the assessments. She's an RN, and she then does that liaison with the hospital. We also do a lot of self-advocacy. We have the Access for All program, and then the other things that relate to employment. So this is fairly new. We work with young people in schools. We have a person that goes in, and Michigan Rehab Services gives us authorization to work with those classrooms and those students to help them to prepare for the possibility of work. Because often we have young people who don't realize whether they have a disability. Some of them don't realize they have a disability, which is odd, but it is true, because when you grow up with a disability, you don't think of it that way. This is just the way you are, you know. And so that helps them to understand their disability, to talk about their disability, and also to be able to learn some skills to kind of get a little leg up in thinking about what they might do as they move forward into transitioning out of high school and employment or whatever they need to do after that. And usually that opens some eyes. We also help people of any age, usually young adults, who are wanting to do some type of employment. They're working with Michigan Rehab Services, and we get an authorization to work with them to address any barriers they have to employment that are standing in the way of doing that. So that might be transportation issues. That might be helping them develop a plan on how to deal with that, how to deal with the fact that they might need to figure out how to handle their money once they get it, and not mess that up, because that can happen very easily, and housing or any of those things that are standing in their way, and helping them to develop a plan so that that's not the issue that keeps them from work. We also have another program that you may be aware of. You know John Hart, right? Okay, so John actually works at Disability Connections, and he manages all the youth programs. These are some of his programs that are helping youth to be able to move forward to work. And one of the things we're piloting this year, thanks to John's ingenuity, is the partnership with Makerspace, which is have any of you heard of that? Makerspace is a small, very tiny little organization of, I think, mostly men, but they are sometimes retired, sometimes still working, but many times retired, and have some really interesting skills. They're very unique kinds of things. They've built a group. They're a nonprofit of their own. They're using an old school building that is down near in the area where St. Stan's is and all of those things. So they have all their equipment there. They've got a 3D printer. They've got a bandsaw. They've got a lot of other equipment. And what we know is that those young students may not have had ever a chance to try out or to be able to move into those fields because they can't necessarily learn the skills necessary in as quick a time as necessary for them to be able to get that certification in the regular modes. So John has had a program that's called Youth Assessment and Training, where he has 5 or 6 students during a semester, and they would come into our building, learn different skills. He would assess their skills and their capacity to work, and in many times being able to expose them to Fix Disc, which is across the street, that fixing place. They would work there, and the first time they've ever used tools of any kind. So the idea being that he would select from those students those that have that capacity and interest and can work safely, And he's selected for the first person, a person that went through that program, is now working at Makerspace, learning some of the tools. He's actually been on 4 of the different types of equipment that are out there with another staff that works for John. So he goes out on Wednesday nights. He has a membership there, so he can go at any time if he wants to with a parent or other adult. And he's learning those skills and will be hopefully certified and then be able to get into an internship or an apprenticeship into one of the manufacturers in our community. So there's a lot of things happening to help to understand the community of people with disabilities in our community. My staff and our organization is kind of unique in the world of work, in that as a Center for Independent Living, which is what our federal category of entity is, we are required to have more than half of our staff with disabilities of all kinds, and more than half of our board as well with disabilities of all kinds. We meet that and exceed that. We're about 75% in both areas, and they're disabilities of all kinds. So we help people and support people of all types of disabilities, of all ages. So we cross all those things. So we don't just work with people who are blind or people who are deaf or people who have physical disabilities. We also work with people with mental health issues, cognitive disabilities, and other disabilities as well. So I have staff who have all of those things, and it's a wide range of people, and the premise being that people with disabilities can best help people with disabilities to understand and to move forward in their lives as a peer. Now, if any of you are parents, you know that you would much rather hear advice on parenting and will believe it if it's from a parent than if it's from someone who is not a parent, right? So it's the same thing. So that's the premise behind all of that, and so we have a very diverse group of people who work with people with disabilities to help them to move forward in their lives through employment, and sometimes not, because some people, that's not what they can do at this point in time, but maybe in volunteer work. So I have one staff member who has a young adult daughter who has many disabilities, and she is not working, but she is working. So she's working as a volunteer. So she doesn't have the capacity to do a lot of things, and if other people in the community would have seen her, they'd think, no, she's not able to do anything at all. She loves to vacuum, because she's always done that with a person to help her a little bit. So she vacuums as a volunteer at the senior center. And that's great, because her mom says that she gets some support, and she is on Medicaid, for that. And she says that's her work to pay back, what she does. So everyone has to have the dignity of work if they can, whatever it is. And it can be a small thing, it can be a big thing, but it makes a difference to that person, and it gives them some self-worth. So I appreciate the time to come and talk to you today, and I'm going to stay a little longer when you have your social hour so you can ask questions if you like. So thank you again. If you have any other questions, you can always call. Our number's on pretty much everything. Our information and referral specialist will answer the question. If you'd like to talk to me, just ask. Thank you so much.